You're most welcome back to Matchbook's Weekend Football Podcast. And last week wasn't terrific. Now, we're able to shout about the winners, but last week wasn't terrific. So in the interest of integrity, we will say it was a losing week. But however, this is the opportunity to bounce back. And generally speaking, when we do have a rare losing week, we do bounce back. Joined by my esteemed panel, as ever, the top right of your screen if you're watching us now live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Good morning. Please do get in touch. Mr. Adrian Clarke, ex-professional footballer and current broadcaster. Good morning, Adrian. How are you?
Hello. Yeah, I'm all right. Yeah, fine. Yeah, no, he just reminded me of last weekend. Yeah, it was a bit, more misses than hits, unfortunately. And we were quite confident, weren't we? It just goes to show, you never can tell.
I'll tell you what, though, Mark O'Haire, both of you guys and your insights columns are doing really well. I forgot the stat, but you're knocking around the park in Europe too. Like I think it's like 15 winners of your last 18 or something like that.
Yeah, it's going quite well. 1.5 wins from the two selections last week, which was quite nice. Just pretty good about my best bet on the podcast last week with the BTS No, which was looked in the bank for all of an hour, and then a red card just changes it. And that's football for you. If it's not red cards, it's penalties or deflected shots or anything else. That's what you have to deal with. But life goes on.
Yeah, there's a lot of shocks last weekend.
Yes,
and it happens. That's why we love football, right?
Exactly. So before we get to this week's games, just want to remind people of our new sign-up offer at Matchbook. It's pretty similar to the last one, but a bit better, actually, I think, because this is kind of more on your terms. You can get 0% commission on all sports for the first 30 days of your account if you use the bonus code INSIGHTS. And one or two people DM me on Twitter because they can't understand my accent from the podcast. That's INSIGHTS. That's Insights. Use that bonus code for 0% commission, not just on football, but on all sports. You're normally, if you're opening an account Matchbook, you're set on 2% net win, which is pretty low anyway, but even better for these 30 days. If you use that bonus code Insights, you get 0% commission on all sports. Right, guys, let's get into it. FA Cup time is what we're going to do first. And we're going to look at, definitely the game of the weekend, which is Chelsea and Man City at Wembley on Saturday. A bit later kickoff, obviously, for obvious reasons, in London on Saturday. Adrian, I'll come to you first for this one. The betting currently at Matchbook at the time of recording, you can back Chelsea at 4.85, City just under 1.85. The draw is available at 3.66. Chelsea getting a half a goal start on the Asian handicap at 2.05, and you can back Man City there just under 1.85, and 2.5 is the total. Adrian, both of these teams progressing in Europe midweek. Obviously, Chelsea have an extra day's rest, but I think with Man City, looking at their bench in Dortmund the last night, they're going to probably play the likes of Sterling and these guys, and you're like, what difference does it make? But what are you making of this one? Because it's a fascinating encounter.
Yeah, could be Champions League final, couldn't it? Dress rehearsal, every possibility of that happening. You're right. I looked at the City bench as well. Sterling, Fernandinho, Gabriel Jesus. I guess these guys will get a game. It's not like they're really weakened, is it? Chelsea probably had a slightly more comfortable evening, I guess, the night before. So that's a minor advantage to them. Chelsea, of course, have got an amazing record in the FA Cup in recent seasons. That they will feel it's their competition for sure. So I think this is a really even game. I genuinely do, even though the odds don't suggest that. I think after 90 minutes, there's every chance this could be a draw, or even for Chelsea to nick it. Look at Tuchel's record against the big boys since he took over. Spurs 1-1-0. Man United drew 0-0. Liverpool 1-1-0. Everton, if you call them a big boy, 1-2-0. I mean, they haven't conceded a goal. They've been involved in very tight, cagey matches that they've kind of controlled. City's a different kettle of fish. We know that, but they've proven that they can handle very lively attacks under Thomas Tuchel. So my instinct is that this is quite a cagey semi-final, and that Tuchel's men will certainly make a decent fist of it against the City team that clearly would prefer to put their eggs in the Champions League basket. Not that they have to choose, of course. City against the current top four, of which Chelsea are they part of it at the moment? I can't remember. But against the current top four, they've had 6 games and 4 of them have gone under 2.5. So they've not been involved in that. But that follows Mark O'Haire's theme on the big boys playing against each other and going under. So Look, for me, there are a few choices. Under 2.5 is an option, but I quite like Chelsea plus half a goal here. I know it's dangerous to back against Manchester City, but you get the draw obviously onside there after 90 minutes. The right side of even money. I don't think there's going to be much in this game, so that would be my selection in a tightish game. Obviously, you could push it up to plus 3/4 of a goal if you wanted to. But yeah, that's how I see it. I don't know Mark's view.
Well, Mark, there's going to be a couple of narratives about this whole Tuchel against Guardiola aspect. You know, the fact that they were in Germany, they had 5 meetings. Guardiola won 4 of them. Obviously, Tuchel was at Borussia Dortmund, and he was also at Mainz for 2 of those games. But do we put any stock in those things? Because obviously, you know, Tuchel has a far better squad now at Chelsea than he would have had with Dortmund, especially with Mainz back then. Nothing to go on that, or is it just, you know, blank slate there with Tuchel?
My honest response is it's irrelevant. It's completely irrelevant what happened in Germany, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think this is a fascinating game, really fascinating. I think we've got the 2 best teams in the country facing off at a neutral venue. The league table might not suggest it, but I think it's kind of common knowledge that these 2 are the best teams in the country right now, and both under similar circumstances, playing in Europe knockout football midweek as well. Yes, Chelsea have a little bit extra rest and preparation time, but I don't think that counts for a lot considering the squads, as Adrian talked about as well. I do understand the price, but at the same point, there's no way I want to get with City at 1.85. Talked a few weeks ago about there will be an opportunity to go against City at some point. This might be it, and Adrian might be onto something then, getting Chelsea odds against onside with half a goal start. We've showered them with superlative City for quite some time, particularly through the winter, but I've certainly seen, not just with the eye test, but with the numbers, that defence is starting to give away a couple more opportunities than it did at their peak. And look, ignore the Leeds game last weekend because that was a fluke and they rested all their main men for Dortmund. It doesn't count for anything in my opinion, but I think Dortmund showed that they can be got at. And I think a couple of occasions where you see Haaland just barging into the centre halves and just unnerving them a little bit. John Stones looked a little bit uncomfortable last night. And it's 2 clean sheets and 7 league outings for City now since late February, which is, you know, a sea change away from where they were during the winter time as well. So I do think there's an opportunity here for Chelsea. But my preference would be to oppose goals at under 2.5, 1.86. I think we've got 2 teams here who would probably prefer to set the tempo, prefer to set the tone and enjoy control. I think there's a large degree of respect, not just from the coaches, but also the 2 clubs. I think we're not going to get anywhere near a PSG Bayern type game here. I think it's going to be much more reserved, waiting to see who's going to blink first. And, you know, City have been at this point, I think 3 times under Guardiola, semi-finals in the FA Cup, twice against Arsenal, once against Brighton. All 3 went under 2.5. Adrian mentioned the stats against the top teams as well for both teams in terms of unders and Chelsea keeping clean sheets. For Chelsea, it's unders copying in 9 of 11 Premier League games against the top 8 now as well. I'm not going to offer any sort of grand insight or opinion here based on how these 2 teams might set up tactically, but I just think it's the magnitude of the match, the respect involved. And I just think stylistically too, in fact, it's quite a nice matchup to oppose goals in. So, I'd be really surprised if this one does break out into something quite exciting and entertaining. I think it's going to be who'll blink first, and for me, that's why unders is the bet.
Yeah, I like both angles here. I can absolutely see both angles. Adrian, I think for the sake of arguments, though, it might be small but counterintuitive if we do take Chelsea plus a half and it's a 1-0 win to City. So maybe if we just play small but more cautious and take under 2.5 at 1.86. But yeah, I fully expect it to be potentially that kind of cup semi-final feature between 2 good teams. We've seen this in the past too, guys, that like, you know, both teams obviously do want to win this competition, especially City going for this historic quadruple. Yeah. So yeah, they may just tighten up.
They both go for it. Yeah, I'm just sort of Manchester United. Tuchel, I would imagine. I mean, anyone that sort of has got a decent squad. I think we'll look at the way Ole Gunnar Solskjaer takes on Manchester City with that tactical approach and kind of look to mimic it. You've got to have the players to do it, and I do feel that Chelsea probably have, in terms of waiting, and then bang in the middle of the park. Conte, Jorginho is always a worry for me against a team like City, but yeah, win it there, and then of course you've got your Mounts, your Havertz, Pulisic. These guys, it could even be a game for Timo Werner to make an impact either from the bench or from the start, like he did against Liverpool. Because City, for me, I completely agree with Mark, not defending as imperiously as they were. And as Leeds showed, those longer passes can hurt them. And Chelsea have got let's face it, they pass the ball over distance better than most, don't they, Chelsea? I can see them maybe looking to catch Stones or Diaz on the hop with a ball over the top. So look, we'll have to see, but no, I'm comfortable with going with unders.
For all his critics, well, we've chatted about Ole in the past, but the fact that teams are using him as a template to beat Manchester City, and it's very good. I mean, Aidan Clarke said this post the first leg at the Etihad that he was exactly using the exact same thing for that. So it's pretty interesting, So anyway, we'll move on. Yeah,
a lot of people mock Dolly, but he's not the worst tactician in the world. Let me tell you.
Possibly on this podcast as well. Yeah, no names going up. But Mark put his hand up, so that's good. All right, under 2.5 is the place. So Chelsea and City. We'll move on to the next semi-final. This is Sunday kickoff. Leicester City and Southampton, of course, Wembley as well. You can back currently at Matchbook at the time of recording. Leicester City are 1.97. Oh, we love discussing Leicester City games, guys. Southampton at 4.1. The draw available at 3.74. Southampton getting a half goal start at 1.98. 2.5 is the total. And a very even line at that 2.5. Mark O'Haire, what are you making of Leicester City? I mean, we saw the worst of them against West Ham and some of the best in the second half, but so that it's hard to get on board with Southampton here shortly as well in recent form.
Yeah, I think that's fair. So I mean, I'm back in Leicester. If you can get close to evens, I think Leicester are the bet. I think if you look down over the FA Cup semi-finals down recent years, we're normally treated to one which is quite open, quite attacking, quite enjoyable semi-final, and one really tight and attritional one between two well-matched teams. And I think, we've talked about one which is probably going to be quite tight, and I think this one might be a little bit more entertaining, a bit more adventurous, a bit more open. That's my opinion anyhow, and I did look towards both teams to score. I did look towards over 2.5 goals as potential avenues. I did look at potentially combining the two as well, but I've settled on Leicester to win the match in 90 minutes, just shy of evens. They met at the KP in January. We know Leicester haven't been very good at home this season. They went off at 1.8 favs that day at home and won the game quite easily 2-0. So, we know that home advantage has eroded quite a lot in the Premier League and across Europe this season. So to get Leicester around evens on a neutral territory, I think that's absolutely fair enough, really. Of course, things have threatened to sort of derail themselves a little bit for Leicester in recent weeks, and the off-field stuff last weekend, in particular, getting loads of headlines. But those naughty boys should be back available for them this weekend. Söyüncü, I think, is available as well, so they will be stronger. I think they finished the game strong enough as well. And then you look at Saints, and was it 1 win in 12 before they beat Burnley? And I thought going into that game against West Brom last week, we didn't feature it, but I thought, Southampton are such a streaky team at the moment under Hasenhüttl, and I thought this was the opportunity to get back on the bus, but just abysmal, really.
Yeah.
It was awful, just unforgivable, really. And they're in no man's land domestically, and I'm just not sure many teams outside the elite can just turn it on and off when it matters. So whilst this is a massive occasion for them, as it is for Leicester, there's no motivational advantage there. I just can't see how Southampton can just turn it on because it's an FA Cup semi-final. They've lost 11 of 14 in the Premier League. They've only won 3 of 20 against teams above them in the Premier League. They're ranked 15th in terms of non-penalty XG output, averaging 0.9 per game, which is fractionally better than the likes of Newcastle and Sheffield United. We know they're really good at set pieces. We know Danny Ings has got the quality to hurt any defence. But they're very gettable at the moment. They've conceded multiple goals in 10 of those 14 games. I find it hard to kind of get behind them at the prices, even at 4.1 on the neutral venue. I still think Leicester are the better team. I think they've got something to prove, and I think this is a big game for both clubs actually. So there's no real sort of, as I said, advantage for Southampton saying, this is their season. It's Leicester's as well. They want to win the FA Cup for sure. Yeah,
absolutely. Adrian Clarke, what do you reckon? Agree?
Yes, yeah, absolutely, I do. Yeah, no, the two I had down were Leicester on the nose and over 2.5. I think both sides will start with front twos. There's no way that they're going to leave out Iheanacho for this game, in my opinion, not with his form. They certainly won't leave out Jamie Vardy. So not against Yannick Vestergaard and Yad Bednarek. I think there's a real pace differential there. So they'll go with two up front. By the way, there's a stat on Iheanacho. No one's scored more FA Cup goals than Iheanacho since the start of the 2015-16 season. He just loves it. He loves the FA Cup. So he's been consistently delivering. And maybe this is his stage again. I mean, I live in Leicestershire. My in-laws are all Leicester fans. They are all over the FA Cup. Leicester supporters are desperate to get to Wembley. It's a big deal, and it's a moral dilemma for Brendan Rodgers. Obviously, what to do with the sort of the bad boys. No, the bad boys like Maddison and Perez. I think Maddison might be left out here on the bench on form. Really, I think Iosi Perez was maybe more effective leading up to when they had their little misdemeanor. So I think if someone comes in, it might be him rather than Maddison. But we'll have to see. Look, Mark's reeled off all the stats. Saints 1 clean sheet in 9 in the Premier League. They've looked short against the better teams. Yes, they beat Liverpool in a bad moment. They beat a really depleted Everton. The rest of the time against the top sides, 9 losses, 4 draws. So they've come up short. For me, set pieces are really their best avenue against Leicester, who are bad at defending them, and we know about Ward-Prowse. But yeah, no, I think good game. Goals, maybe both teams to score, but be over 2.5 is a good shout. But yeah, I'm with Mark as the sort of premium pick. I just can't see Leicester blowing it. This has to be the moment. Southampton, for me, don't warrant a place in the cup final. We've had a pretty easy draw to this point. It should be Leicester.
Yeah, so I was kind of wondering, and I cut across you there briefly, in the sense that with Leicester, the fact that they're going for the Champions League, having let it slip very much last season, that would have been their priority. But it's like this juggling act, because FA Cup for them is a big deal. It is a big deal. But I was just kind of wondering in my head, where are they putting more stock in? But obviously, look, they're playing Southampton, so it's not like they're playing Man City this weekend. So.
You don't. When was the last time they were in an FA Cup semi-final? I think you go back to the 80s, early 80s.
I can't think of it.
I think I think I read somewhere it was 1982, and they didn't win it. They didn't go through to the final. I don't think they've been in an FA Cup final since I've been alive. And I'm ancient. I had my jab yesterday. I'm that old. So yeah, this is a massive deal to the city, to the club, and I think Brendan Rodgers will be acutely aware of that. They've blown semi-finals in the recent past. The draw's been kind. Surely they can't blow this.
Surely.
1969. I had a quick look.
Good man. 1969. Love that.
For the last time they got to a final.
Yeah,
amazing.
Summer of 69. All right, Leicester City 1.97 is the selection there from the guys. We will move back to the Premier League, because there is Premier League action this weekend as well, guys. Monday night is the game we're going to look at. Leeds United versus Liverpool. 3 wins on the bounce for Leeds. They're 4.8 at home. Liverpool at just under 1.74. You can back the draw available at 4.25. Leeds are getting a 3/4 of a goal start on the Asian handicap. That's displayed on site at matchbook.com at plus 0.5/1.0. And that's odds against 2.01, just over even money. And 3 is the total, and that's 1.87. Adrian, take it away. What are we thinking here? Because look, Leeds are in great form. Liverpool, but is this a good spot for Liverpool? Because I'd sense that there's going to be a bit of consensus with Leeds by the time we get to Monday night, after their obviously fluky win at the Etihad. But what are you thinking?
I mean, you say fluky. Yes, they scored from their only 2 shots, but and they did weather rather a large storm.
Clinically fluky. Yeah, that's
great game plan, wasn't it, from Bielsa? Well played. I mean, my eyes lit up at the price of under 3. I've got to say, I think on there it was over evens, wasn't it? 2.05. I mean, my eyes lit up at that, I have to say, because I think that the crazy Leeds, although they can always come back, I just don't think they're that crazy at the moment. They've kind of got a bit more comfortable with their tactical game plans. They're a little bit stronger defensively, and I think we're probably all guilty of thinking maybe that they're more gung-ho than what they are. I looked at their home games, actually. Less than half, 47%, have actually seen more than 2 goals. And for Liverpool as well, on away games, only 47% have gone over. So more often than not, these teams are involved in low-scoring matches at home and away. So that's something to consider here. Liverpool, I mean, they forgot their shooting boots again, didn't they, against Real Madrid? Goodness me. I mean, they played well for the first half and parts of the second, but they just in front of goal. They're not themselves at the moment, are they? But I make them favourites. I mean, Leeds haven't beaten anyone above 13th at Ellen Road this season. They've fallen short against the better teams. Yes, they drew with Chelsea and City, of course, but low scoring games again against those two. So yeah, for me, I think Liverpool will probably win a low scoring game. That's how I see it. For Liverpool, this is huge now. Now that Champions League's gone. They've got to go for it. I still think they'll get top four. I genuinely do.
Really?
I think Leicester might miss out. I think Chelsea for sure.
Yeah.
Can West Ham really keep it up? I don't know. I still think Liverpool have got a good shout at it. They will certainly back themselves to do it. And for them, given that it's a Monday night, so quite a long recovery time for them. Yeah. I think that will play in their favour. So yeah, I'll probably back Liverpool, but for me, the best bet, in my opinion, is under 3 goals.
Interesting, and some good correlation stats there with those overs and unders at home and away. Mark, what are you thinking in this one? Tough to know what to make of Liverpool, but is unders a good look for you in this one?
Yeah, it's what I've got written down, which is always encouraging. I went a little bit further. Whilst the Matchbook price probably hasn't matured completely yet, I do think there's 1.8 available on the market if you took under 3.25 goals, which really did stand out to me. Not only making money still, if there's exactly 3 goals in the match, that really does appeal. 4 or more goals required to lose your stake, which is quite encouraging, really. I think this is a really interesting betting heat. Leeds obviously producing some really impressive performances in recent weeks. I think it shows, what they're capable of when they have free midweeks as well. Plenty of time to rest and recover and prepare. And the international break probably came at the right time for them too. But, I thought they played really well against Chelsea when we went against them, earned a draw that day. But since then, it's Fulham, Sheffield United. They should really be winning those games. And then Man City, where, fluky was probably a harsh word to use to describe them, which I did myself, but it was a little bit fortunate. And I guess from a price perspective, when you look at Liverpool at 173, Chelsea went off at 180 when we really liked them at Ellen Road. Chelsea are a degree better than Liverpool right now, even if the league table might not necessarily agree in sort of the sense that the odds are saying either. But I think there's enough there for me to sort of leave Liverpool alone and then just look towards opposing goals. As Adrian mentioned, this game's on Monday. Enough time for them to sort of physically and emotionally recover from the Champions League. Their away form has been good, in fairness, 6 wins in 8. And they have been defending a lot better as well, particularly away from home. So, there's not a huge amount really I can add to it, but just the raw stats, which I think Adrian gave a few of them anyway, but 60% of Liverpool's games would have seen this bet collect some profit. 80% of Leeds' home matches too. Only 2 of Leeds' last 15 in the Premier League in 2020 have featured 4 or more goals, and 4 of Liverpool's 17 since Boxing Day have produced a maximum of 3 goals as well. I think people will look back to the reverse of this game on the opening day, which ended 4-3. A crazy game, fantastic fun for the neutrals. But I think Leeds have probably adapted their game plan a little bit. We saw that at City last week. I think Liverpool will be much more streetwise, much more aware of what's to come as well. So, I think they'll be a little bit more conservative. We know they've not been doing there's business in the final third, as they have done over previous seasons as well. So I think from a Liverpool perspective, it's just get this job done and move on to the next game. So for that, I do expect them to win, but I wouldn't expect them to win 4-3 like the reverse. So under 3.25 would be my way. If you can get 1.8 and above, I think that's a great bet.
Adrian, what you make it up is slightly different. It's a very similar angle, obviously, but with the under 3.25.
I'm happy enough for that.
50% profit if it's 3 goals, whereas instead of a void. Yeah, you have.
No, we always look. We don't like to tip up anything below 1.7, do we? But if it's 1.8, why not? I agree. If you're making a little bit, if it's 3 goals, which it could be, let's be honest, it could easily have 3 goals. I just don't see this being the high scoring free for all. I think it could easily be 0-0. It could easily be 1-1. Yeah. It's that kind of game here. Liverpool on the road, as Mark touched on there, been really much more solid, considering they've had an absolutely disastrous campaign. They've only lost 3 times out of 15 on the road. So and Leeds don't seem to beat the big boys at Ellen Road. So I think they'll be solid here. But under 3.25 all day long.
Like it. Monday Night Football under. Let's move on. The last game we're covering on the main slate today is Newcastle United against West Ham United. West Ham can go third here with a win. It's an early kickoff on. It's hard. It's nuts. Yeah, crazy here. 3.84. You can back the Toon Army, who are in pretty decent form themselves. West Ham at 2.12, the draw available at 3.48. Newcastle getting a half goal start on the Asian handicap at 1.83, which is also 5-6. And 2.5 is the total, slightly shaded towards the over here at 1.91, which is also 10-11. Mark, what do you make of this? I mean, look, you guys were spot on with West Ham last week. The angle was BTTS, and that easily cashed in the end. With the hammers here, Mark, or what are you thinking?
It's a rinse and repeat job for me. Both teams to score again, 1.9. Really looking forward to this one, actually. I think there's plenty to play for at both ends of the table. Newcastle have shifted towards a bit more of an attack-minded approach in recent weeks. We saw it against Spurs. Not so much at Burnley, not until at least Saint-Maximin and Wilson were introduced, but just having those two fit and available completely changes the complexion on this Newcastle team, particularly from a Steve Bruce perspective. The influence that those two players have is quite frightening, in fairness. The instant sort of transformation we saw when they were introduced to Turf Moor, just a belief and confidence going forward. I think it was quite clear to see, really, and the stats bore it out as well. With Wilson, Newcastle average 1.27 points per game. Without, 0.44. He's only played 22 league appearances this season, so vital, really. With Saint-Maximin, it's 1.33 points per game. Without him, 0.62. He's only played 18 times because of injury as well. So they are so key for this Newcastle team. And I think having both available, even if one of them has to start on the bench, I think is really key, just for the general mood around the place as well. And they should be confident, because this is a West Ham team without Rice, with doubts over Noble, with doubts over Cresswell, Antonio, Ogbonna as well. A West Ham side who I've lauded for months now and really enjoyed them. But they have conceded 7 goals in 3 games. They've only kept 3 clean sheets in 13, despite their good results as well. So they are conceding opportunities. They are conceding goals. And yeah, I think Newcastle can score, but I think both teams to score at 1.9 is fair enough. I've used it, I think, the last 3 weeks of the podcast, but West Ham have now failed to score in just 5 games all season. Only City have failed to score in fewer games than West Ham. Their 1.32 non-pen XG output is only fractionally lower than Chelsea's across the whole season. And Newcastle have conceded in 26 of 31 Premier League games this season. So 7 of their last 10, both teams score. 9 of West Ham's last 13 in the Premier League have seen both teams score as well. So yeah, 1.9 I think is a decent price.
Yeah, very decent price. Just be aware that at matchbook.com we will have that price a bit closer to kick-off. It's 2 days out from kick-off at the moment, but that's the general guide price of 1.9. And Adrian Clarke, you text me first thing this morning, ask me for a price like that, and what was the bet?
Batista score. Yeah, it's getting a bit spooky, isn't it? The data, as Mark's alluded to, is strong. I mean, St James's Park has seen both teams score in 80% of the games, highest by miles in terms of stadiums. And Newcastle have only failed to score in 3 games at home, and we always associate Newcastle with powder puff. Really, don't we? The boring, little bit negative under Steve Bruce, but as Mark was saying, when Wilson and Saint-Maximin are fit and available, they do go for it a little bit more. And I think they might both start here as the strikers. There's every chance. Saint-Maximin has looked at his very, very best as a front man, in my opinion. And West Ham's back 3 or back 4, they're not the quickest. They really aren't. I think he's more than capable of causing them problems. I've written a piece actually for the Premier League on Saint-Maximin ahead of the game, and I sort of dug into it, and he's they basically score twice as many goals when he plays. When he's in the matchday squad, Newcastle more than double their goal output. So and the win rate, skyrockets. I think the win rate's a third. Both teams score for me. Again, obviously West Ham, we know that they'll be front foot. We know that they'll go for it. They'll probably have a really bright start to the game. I also worry a little bit about Newcastle in midfield. The midfield they've gone with of late is John Joe Shelvey as a sort of sitter, with I think Longstaff and Almiron, and then a front 2. And for me, if Lingard plays at 10, Lingard v Shelvey is a bit of a runaround potentially for John Joe Shelvey. So who, let's face it, is not a great defender. He's good on the ball, but not a great defender. So I see goals. Could be a high scoring draw, but yeah, both teams to score at that price. Yeah, for sure. Obviously, you could go with overs. Over 2.5. What was that? Close to 1.9. It's another option, isn't it? So but I'm more than happy with both teams to score there.
Mark, want to ask just before we come off this game. I think Adrian touched on already. He has his doubts whether West Ham can sustain into the top four. What do you think? Look, we're halfway through April. They're still there. They win on Saturday afternoon, and they're in the third place, albeit with a game more played.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to rule them out just because it's that kind of season. But I think the injuries are starting to rack up a little bit, and certainly to key players as well. If Rice and Antonio are missing consistently, and Noble, I don't think can continue to sort of perform at that level. His fitness is under question as well. I just don't think they've got the replacements in key areas to sustain themselves. And I think, I expect Liverpool to finish in the top four. I do expect Chelsea to as well. Man United are already pretty much locked in as well. So I do think eventually the cream will rise to the top, but I'm definitely not going to be sort of laying West Ham for the top four at all anytime soon.
Okay. Just to get to a couple of comments here. Sean Mick has been in touch. Morning, lads. Morning, Sean. Good morning. Welcome to the show. Lee Martin has also been in touch. The three amigos are back. Morning, lads. Morning, Lee. Alan Saint-Maximin, last week. What a player. He's definitely a Newcastle fan, but he's a cracking player.
Oh, brilliant. I love watching him. He's a natural winger, but I just think in the system with the five at the back, stick him up top, make him run down the left, down the right, or down the middle, like we saw against Burnley. And what happens when a player like him runs at you? They back off. And as he showed the other day, he's got a decent bit of end product. Nice assist pass and a lovely goal. So I think he can cause the Hammers a few problems here. They've not been defending well.
No, absolutely. Adrian Clarke, let's move on. EFL Bets, mate. What have you got for us this week? Any more unders that I can be betting? Maybe. Yeah, I don't think that's the strongest angle. I'm going to go for a Sunday Championship, not a double, but look at both the games in the Championship on the Sunday. Actually, Rotherham play Birmingham on Sunday, and it'll be the fourth game in 8 days for the Millers, who play tonight. They played on Tuesday. They played at the weekend, and they'll play again on Sunday against Birmingham. Now, they were brilliant against QPR the other night. They've got Coventry tonight, huge game, and Birmingham is huge as well. Now, Birmingham have had that time off. So I think it's a big advantage. 4 games in the space of around a week is a massive ask. And they're bound to pick up a few injuries as well as fatigue. So for me, Birmingham under Bowie, I tipped them up on my insights column last weekend, and they came in lovely, didn't they? Plenty to spare against Stoke. They're using they're playing to the strengths of Jukovic up front, big battering ram of a centre forward. Even though Rotherham are pretty tall at the back, they do concede a few when the ball goes in the area. So for me, I mean, I looked at the price. I mean, Birmingham were being offered at 2.55. They're actually. I just cut across here. They're actually bigger, and I'll tell you why. There's a bit of margin built into that market because obviously they're playing tonight. So you can actually you're going to easily get 2.7 or 2.8.
Well, that's a fantastic price. Now, it depends on your caution, whether you want to be cautious. I just don't see Rotherham winning this game. Birmingham have been brilliant on the road. They've not lost, actually, away from home, Birmingham, to anyone below 9th, Birmingham. So anyone below 9th, Birmingham have just not lost away to them. So they're really solid on the road. We've seen what Bowie has done. You can get draw no bet, which is obviously around, I think it's 1.84, I think it was when I last looked. Yeah. So it's one of those. Depends on how brave you want to be. I'll push the boat out. I think let's go all in on Birmingham, shall we?
You got them right last week, yeah.
Let's go in, yeah. So if it's 2.7, happy days. I just think that's definitely something to factor in. It's an exhausting schedule for Rotherham, and Birmingham need the points. Still need that one win really to secure safety. Now the other game of the day is Coventry against Barnsley. Now Barnsley have been brilliant all season. We know that they've been free scoring against the sides that have struggled so far this season. They've actually scored 2 or 3 goals in away games against the bottom 7. They've never scored less than 2 this season. And Coventry have been beset by injuries to defenders. Might have 1 or 2 back this weekend, but they've had issues at the back. Kids have had to play. It's a good time to play Coventry, in my opinion, and this game means an awful lot to Barnsley. So yeah, you could go down to both teams to score route because Coventry are always worth a goal. But for me, over 2.25 goals in this game, 1.826 was the price the last time I looked. Is it still?
I thought you were going to go to Barnsley there. And
well, you can go to Barnsley, which is 2.04. But I've got both written down. But I think I would more likely back goals in this game because Barnsley, as I say, when they go away, they tend to batter teams. They sort of prey on weaknesses. This Daryl DK up front's great. Corley Woodrow. They've got Alex Mowat. They've got some really good Championship players. And Coventry are just fragile at the moment at the back. But they're always worth a goal. They've got good forward players themselves. So, yeah, for me, there will be goals in the game. That would be my pick, please.
2.25, just over 1.85. Mark O'Haire, we're going to the continent. We're going to Ligue 1 and La Liga. Hey, do you remember Dijon lost 12 games in a row? Dijon have lost. So are we covering them this week? We're going to pause them.
Of course we are.
That was a good guess. I know.
I'm embarrassed now.
Dijon hater.
Yeah. Look, I started looking yesterday for the show, and Nice were 1.91 to win at Dijon. They're now 1.8, and that's only going to trend down. So let's go on it quick while we can, because I think once it gets to sort of 173, it's a no bet really. So there's still a bit of margin there. Dijon, said a few times now, they're already preparing for Ligue 2 next season. 17 points from confirmed safety. I think it's 15 points away from the relegation playoff as well. 21 defeats in 32, 12 defeats on the spin, 10 defeats from 16 at home. They're yet to win at home all season. They've scored just 5 goals in those 16 home games as well. There were a few bright sparks in their games against Marseille and Monaco, it must be said, but ultimately this is a disorganised team, low on morale, basically just awaiting their fate. And from a Nice perspective, they were probably a team I steered clear of for most of the season. Vieira was sacked in early December, and probably a little bit harshly, but poor results and a poor kind of style of play was to blame for that. And Adrian Clarke stepped up as the new head coach, and it's taken him a bit of time to sort of find his feet, but they are starting to perform pretty well. 14 points from the last 18. They're scoring goals. They're limiting opportunities. Away from home, they've won half of their 14 games if you exclude the breakaway top 4. I think they're an appealing price considering Dijon's struggles. And Nice in the last 6 games, 4 of those, they've generated at least 1.5 XG. In 3 of them, they've created over 2 XG per game as well. So they're in a good place. And if you look at their away record as well, under Osea, they don't tend to get beaten unless they're playing one of the bigger teams either. So I think they're finishing with a flourish, and I think this game or this price will go off shorter than the 1.8 it is right now. So yeah, it needs to win away at Dijon. And shall I crack on?
Yeah, but I'm still aghast that I actually guessed that right, because we do actually plan this show out for the main games, but I actually never asked the guys what they're covering the late games. But yeah, just had Dijon on the brain and no mustard puns this week. So yeah, let's move on. Before I do, let's move on to La Liga.
Mark, can I just ask if you had any Dijon fans trolling you, saying that you've got an agenda?
No. It's been very quiet on that front, actually.
Flying under the radar, yeah.
I was actually in Dijon. I was in Dijon last year, funnily enough, yeah. Broke into their stadium, had a few pictures taken, but I shouldn't say that, should I?
As you do,
yeah. La Liga, Real Madrid, they're coming to the ball at the right time, aren't they? Despite all the injuries, despite everything they've had to deal with, they're getting results. They're climbing the La Liga table. They're in pole position now to defend their title. They've got an awkward game away at Getafe this weekend on Sunday night. Bit of a Madrid derby. Getafe from the southern suburbs. They're a feisty team, an awkward team, but Madrid normally have their number. 13 wins from 14 unbeaten head-to-head games over the past 7 or 8 years now. And as I said, their form right now, 8 wins from 10 unbeaten league games since the start of February. 9 wins from 11 against the bottom 6, of which Getafe are amongst them, and 6 wins from 9 unbeaten away games in the league since the start of December. They're very rarely kind of flashy. They're not the team of old, but they're functional, they're efficient, they get the job done. Zidane deserves a huge amount of credit for the tactical tweaks, flittering between sort of a back 3 and a back 4, shuffling his pack. He talked this week about his players basically being at their very physical limit, really, with injuries and fatigue piling up, but he's just getting a tune out of them week after week, and that is a slight concern, but I think it's balanced out by Getafe, because they have been playing above themselves under Jose Bordalas for a few years now, but they're suffering this season. Scoring goals and creating opportunities has been a massive problem. They're averaging 0.73 goals per game. They've got the worst record in La Liga for creating chances, excluding penalties, even worse than Elche, which is really, really poor. They've been nilled in 8 of their last 11 games. They've lost 11 of 14 against the top half, and they've scored just 1 goal in 8 against the top 5. So, yeah, I'm happy to oppose Getafe with Real Madrid and the form they're in. Surprised we can get Real Madrid with a minus 3/4 handicap at 1.89 or 1.9ish. There might have been a bit of movement there overnight after the Liverpool game. But, Real Madrid, just backing them to win the game, basically, will create some profit for us. So, minus 0.75 would be my preferred play.
Yeah, and that's actually currently available at 1.85 a Matchbook. And you think about teams like Getafe, it's always probably tougher to play them early in the season than later in the season. Like you said, they just run out of this team. And Madrid, I'll tell you this much, like Zidane for what he's won there and the pressure that job entails with the politics that goes on at the Bernabeu, he just doesn't get enough credit in my book.
He's so cool under pressure as well.
Yeah.
But, I even hold my hands up. I still actually think that the 3 Champions Leagues in a row wasn't so much down to Zidane. It was more the players, really. And look, the Champions League, any knockout tournament, you need a bit of luck to go your way, and they definitely did have that in 2 of their campaigns. I think the Bayern Munich matches in around the quarterfinals or semi-finals, they were quite fortunate in 2 successive seasons to get through those ties. But you can't really sort of ignore his achievements now. He's the second most decorated Real Madrid coach of all time, and he's only been there a few seasons. It's incredible.
Some going on his second tenure. Okay, let's move on. Weekend best bets. Adrian Clarke, EFL or Premier League, or where are you going?
EFL. Yeah, off to EFL today. Every now and again, there's just a game that sort of stands out in terms when you look at some of the stats, and we know there's no such thing as a cert, no guarantees, but we got the top 2 here when it comes to both teams to score to going over 2.5. So Oldham travel to Morecambe. Oldham 8 away wins in a pretty mid-table season. They've scored 34 away goals, which is joint top alongside promotion chasing Cambridge United. So they love it on the road. They just cut loose. And Morecambe have failed to score in 2 of 20 home games. They won 4-1 the other night at home. Very, very attack-minded side. Joint best home record, actually. So, over 2.5. Home or away, Oldham have the most. They've been involved in the most games, 63%. Morecambe, 59%. That's the second highest. On both teams to score, which is my pick here, Oldham, 68% of their matches, which is the first, which is the highest that have gone both teams. And Morecambe, 66% of their matches, both teams have scored, which is the second highest. So look, it's a matchup between 2 teams that score goals, concede goals. Both teams to score. I think you give me a guide price of. It won't come up. It won't come up, will it? Until tomorrow?
A bit close,
Friday?
bit closer to kick off.
Yeah. But hold fire. It'll be around 1.8, I hope, and I'm definitely jumping on.
Yeah, it wasn't a game I was probably going to have any interest in, but all of a sudden I do have an interest in Morecambe and Oldham. Mark O'Haire, your best bet for this weekend, then?
I'm torn between 2 we've already talked about. Real Madrid, and I really like both teams to score at Newcastle. I'm going to take Real Madrid to cover the handicap at Getafe. I think whatever happens, we should be getting some sort of win. Might be a half stakes win, hopefully a full stakes win, but I do expect them to win away at Getafe.
Okay, a win for Los Blancos there, and that's 0.5/1.0 on the Matchbook side at 1.85. Okay, we're done. We're out of time. We're finished. FA Cup, some good games ahead this weekend. And I'd suggest some good selections. Not as many as last week, which I think is a good thing. Because we were a bit too confident last week, I think. There was a bit too much confidence. But I think there's some good looks there, guys. My thanks to Adrian, my thanks to Mark. Best of luck with your bets, and hopefully we will chat to you again next Thursday. Have a great weekend.